Hi guys, as requested, here's a collection of tips for coming up with shapes and details for wing sketches. I realized there are lots of tutorials that claim to teach you how to draw something, but basically they just tell you first you sketch, then you line, then you color. While that might be true, it's also kind of obvious, and I think the most important part about designing the wing is actually planning out the idea and the design of the wing. Anyone can line a given sketch. You probably don't need tutorials for that, but you know, coming up with a sketch itself is the scary part here. I'm not experienced with video tutorials, so please bear with me. First of all, we're gonna need a basic shape. This is where the struggle starts. There are so many wings out there in the community, and it seems like every shape has been used before. During my 7 years of being on DeviantArt, I have produced about 350 pairs of wings. Yes, I counted them. And I'm constantly scared to repeat myself accidentally, but every time I finish a batch of sketches, I never actually find a pair that looks the same. So, even though creating something unique seems scary, try to disregard that thought and remember that your wings will be unique if you combine shapes and add detail. But we'll get to that later. For the basic shape, do research. This might sound odd at first, but you need to sort of build a vocabulary of shapes in your head, so you can recall the shapes and build from them. There are so many potential shapes out there, everywhere in life. So go around and try to catch new shapes in your environment. Just start to be more aware of your surroundings and find those new shapes, even though they might be abstract. Keep those shapes in a mental collection, maybe even create a physical repertoire of just shapes if that helps you. Also remember that the combination of shapes is a useful tool to create new shapes and ultimately endless ideas. Some shapes are less suitable for being a wing shape, but you can easily combine those with other shapes or just duplicate them if you like. One thing that really helps to figure out which shapes will look good together is using a program that has a symmetry option. I'm using Photoshop CC19 here. They recently added this function, which is really handy. Sometimes I find that shapes actually end up looking more cohesive when you see them flipped, so definitely go for that if you can. You can also start with a wild line, just any random given line, and then see what your brain will do with that line. You don't have to picture a full shape before starting to draw. Make the shape come to you by just starting somewhere, and remember you can always undo. So, when you decide on a basic shape, the first step is done. Most people will start to draw the inner line now and then fill in the wings, but that just seems too boring. Some of the official wings, what a tongue twister, tend to have some sort of a line art, and we're gonna do something similar actually. But rather than just lining the inside as a smaller version of the outside, we're gonna bring in some variety. First of all, observe the parts of your shape. Check out what you're working with. It's often easier to break the wing down into two or more parts rather than filling one big shape of emptiness. Kind of like staring at a blank canvas. That's scary. We don't want to do that. So, when you're starting to form that inner line, bring in more shapes. Bring in any random shape you want. Everything can work. This just spices up the boring line art, and it will lay a path for you to make it easier to add detail, because you already have a structure. Don't be scared to go outside the box, and by that I mean outside the wing. You can always leave the outer part of the basic shape. It's a direction, not a prison wall. By leaving the basic shape, you'll make the silhouette of your wings more unique. Now we're gonna start to add the detail. Use your inner shape collection to find out which shapes fit inside your baselines. If there is no matching shape and you find yourself lost, make a shape. My cat is apparently really upset about making shapes. If you face blank areas that are uninspiring to you, make them smaller. Make a bold move, break them apart, remember you can always undo. The more detail you add during the line-up process, the easier it becomes to fill in the wings with the matching detail. Think of all the shapes you can add in. Droplets, circles, diamonds, hearts. Heck, you can even insert a freaking dinosaur if you wanted to. When filling in your details, consider repeating a certain motif throughout the wings. It could be a combination of shapes, a specific swirl, or a shape, or just the way lines are flowing. It could vary in size, shape, or rotation, but it guides the wing into a more cohesive direction and makes the design match overall. It also makes it easier to find shapes to fill your wing with, because you can pretty much just repeat the same stuff. Now it's finally time for the secondary shape. Once again, grab your inner shape collection and add as many secondary shapes as you like. Also, try overlapping shapes for a more unique silhouette. Wing parts don't always have to touch each other. It's magic. There are no hacking rules. Just go wild. The more variety you bring to the outside wing shape, the silhouette, the more interesting your wing will look. Investing in detail is important because official wings are often boring. They are forced to follow certain production criteria, and in the show, they move a lot, so they can't be super detailed since that would be distracting as well as guiding the eye to points where they are not supposed to be. For us, that doesn't matter. We want to care about designing nice and unique wings, so go and invest in all that detail. I'm not talking about adding 5 million shapes to every inch of the wing. I'm talking about outline variety and little ways to break that outline. There are power-based wings and something I'm gonna call generic wings. Generic sounds kinda negative, but really what I want to say is that they're not obviously linked to any power here. Official wings are usually more generic and don't actually reflect the character's powers, but we really don't have to care about that when we make our own. Generic wings can be good if you're planning to sell them, or if your fairy has a very abstract power that cannot be displaced in symbols. Power-based wings can be straight or abstract. By abstract, I mean using symbols in the line work or details, just minor details that point towards the power. Straightforward wings might have a very prominent shape of that power. For example, heart-shaped wings for love, clover-shaped wings for luck, etc. Some people even include actual clip art sometimes. There's really no right or wrong here. You can combine different techniques depending on how individual you want to go. Now, before we close off, here's some general piece of advice. Some wings don't need sketches. I personally hardly ever sketch my own wings. I usually draw the line art directly. I only sketch wings if they are going to have a big amount of detail that needs to be planned out, or if I want to sell them. However, it can help to plan your wings out better, and you get to that point where you can draw them directly. Some wings, like butterflies or mythics, are structured differently, and my workflow for them doesn't require a sketch. So I'd say those are kind of out of the game here. This stuff mostly applies to magic wings, enchantix, believix, or any wings that look similar to them. But obviously, do whatever you like. You can sketch those. Also, practice free doodling whenever you can. It strengthens your ability to create shapes without thinking about them. It should come naturally if you do it often enough. And it can become rather relaxing than scary to come up with new wing doodles. Coming up with ideas is something you can train, so keep creating. The more you force your head to come up with new shapes, the easier it will be over time, and you'll eventually find shapes you want to use more often automatically, so really just keep doodling. I hope that I helped a bit. If you have any questions, let me know. You can try commenting here, but I'll probably reply faster if you shoot me a note on DeviantArt. So, peace out.